Thanks very much, Rob. Firstly, I want to sincerely thank the Gardner Dairy Foundation for their investment and support of the Nuffield Scholarship Program and Nuffield Australia for the development of industry leaders in our rural communities. This opportunity has been life-changing for me and I am forever grateful. I would like to thank my employers and colleagues for their understanding during my extended periods of absence whilst I completed my travels, and my family and friends for their encouragement and unwavering belief in me. To my husband, Matt, my Nuffield experience would not have been the same without you. And we are both so grateful to the entire team at Dixie Park who enabled us to travel the world together and subsequently embrace the changes we implemented upon our return. I'm forever indebted to all the farmers, vets, academics and Nuffield connections I visited and spoke with during my travels. All were forthcoming with their time and knowledge, and I received considered, honest and balanced opinions, as well as extremely generous hospitality wherever I went. After extensive testing, I've concluded that cow welfare discussions are best had over ice cream. And finally, a big thank you to my inspiring and supportive fellow scholars and to both the Australian dairy and veterinary professions. I'm proud to be part of such inspiring and collaborative communities. So this is our farm, Dixie Park. We are a seasonal pasture-based dairy, and I would consider us to be fairly conventional and typical of our region in southwest Victoria. We milk 750 autumn calving cows. Sorry, Rob, we've dumped up again since we last spoke. And we produce over 400,000 kilos of milk solids a year. We supply fresh drinking milk into Geelong via our processor and provide the equivalent of approximately 60,000 people a year with their daily dose of dairy. And like many farms in our region, we have progressive goals and aspirations for growth and improvement. Now, as a cattle vet and a dairy farmer, I do spend a lot of my time looking like this and smelling just as bad. But I also spend a lot of my time doing this, loving and looking after our cows and helping my farming community care for their cattle too. Okay, so a bit of participation. Who enjoys or eats ice cream? Hands up. Yes, awesome, my people. The problem the Australian dairy industry is facing is that according to our Trust Tracker, 1 in 4 of those of you that put your hands up, i.e. consumers of dairy products, do not believe that my community and I are doing a good job of caring for our cows. Public perceptions influence what we farm and how we farm it. Like many global livestock sectors, Australia's dairy industry is facing increasing public concern about many common animal husbandry and management practices. But unlike the vast majority of the rest of the developed world, Australia doesn't have a national dairy welfare assurance scheme. In the UK, for example, 95% of milk produced is assured under the Red Tractor program. In Europe, major dairy processors Arla, Lactalis and Danone all have their own animal welfare assurance programs. In Canada, participation in their national on-farm quality assurance program ProAction is mandatory. In the USA, more than 99% of milk supply comes from farms participating in their farm animal care program. And in New Zealand, where Fonterra processes about 80% of their milk market share, they have certified cared for cows and animal wellbeing programs. So I think it's safe to say that even taking public acceptance out of the equation, market access may become a challenge for us in the future without such a program. And so once travel was finally permitted, I set off to explore these programs, particularly from the perspective of participating farmers. I wanted to understand whether or not these programs changed welfare outcomes for cows on participating farms and successfully aligned the priorities of both farmers and the public. I was also interested in whether they seemed fair for those farmers required to take on the increased audit burden and investments required to achieve compliance. My goal was to understand the opportunities and challenges of welfare assurance and to consider the feasibility of a farmer-led approach in an Australian context. Whether national or private initiative, dairy welfare assessments offer market access advantages, benchmarking opportunities, and the potential for genuine welfare advancement in a currently suboptimal regulatory landscape. Key to program success is adequate financial resourcing, ongoing stakeholder collaboration, appropriate data utilisation, and a commitment to continuous improvement. I'm not going to spend any time detailing key elements, but if you'd like more information, you can find it in my report. If industry is to provide assurance of the tripartite of good animal welfare, including normal biological functioning, a healthy mental state, and the ability to express normal behaviours, then the trilemma is achieving this quickly, with quality, and at minimal cost. As the project management saying goes, you can have it fast, you can have it good, you can have it cheap. Pick two. With 18 years' experience as a practising dairy vet and dairy farmer in her own right, Dr. Barrett was pivotal to the success of Canada's initial Pro-Action Animal Care Assessment Program rollout, acting as a conduit between vets and farmers, providing two-way accessibility and feedback during the formative years of the program. Dairy Farmers of Canada provided funding for vets to deliver the training to farmers ahead of program rollout, both in the classroom and on farm. This required initial training of interested vets to understand the elements of the program, which was delivered by Dr. Barrett. They could then be paid for up to 2 hours delivery per farmer. The benefits here were threefold. Firstly, vets enjoyed being engaged as the good cops. They weren't being asked to They weren't being asked to complete the audits or required to report on non-compliances. They were able to help mitigate the audit shock where non-compliances were likely and support their existing clients in achieving successful outcomes ahead of assessment. And many developed a much deeper understanding of the dairy businesses they worked with. Livestock vets reported the experience as very professionally satisfying and were supportive of the program from the outset. Additionally, vets were already quite likely to know which of their clients would require additional support to achieve the required pro-action outcomes or be resistant to the change. The program suddenly gave these vets a third party to blame for changes they had already been trying to make on these farms and the ability to flag a farm with the auditors ahead of time if adequate change wasn't achieved, which had the additional benefit of reducing auditor workload. By giving vets both the carrot and the stick, industry was able to ensure vets delivered both the quality training and had the difficult conversations required to effect change behaviours at the individual farm level. Finally, reviews now indicate that farmers who used vets to prepare for the rollout of the program had a 70% chance of passing their first round audit, compared with 30% of farmers who did not engage a vet prior. Vets through Dr. Barrett were ultimately a key factor in ensuring genuinely positive animal care outcomes were achieved by Pro-Action. While participating in a welfare program can offer potential market advantages, farmers may question whether consumer demand is genuine. Generally, research suggests consumers are reluctant to put their money where their mouths are when it comes to willingness to pay for premium prices for welfare certified products, although industry materiality assessments place high importance on animal care. Nevertheless, in the Netherlands, Kipster Farm set out to design an egg that even a vegan would eat. After extensive stakeholder consultation, Kipster secured an exclusive 5-year forward contract with European supermarket giant Lidl, sold on the concept alone. They hadn't even built the sheds yet, and at a fair but firm price calculated using their cost of production. Kipster's first run of eggs completely sold out, and the business now sells 20 million eggs per annum. The eggs are sold at a mid-range price point, not as high as organic, but better than free range. They wanted to make the best egg, but remain available to the everyday consumer. Despite being neither organic nor free range, Kipster have received the highest attainable quality seal from the Dutch Society for Animal Protection. With a model built on engagement and based on trust and transparency, a notoriously negative animal activist group even went so far as to make a national radio commercial saying they had finally found an egg they were happy with. Kipster facilities are open to the public and offer interactive and educational community spaces to roughly 20,000 visitors a year. My visit to Kipster left my mind spinning with the possibilities I could see for improved public engagement with and acceptability for dairy farming in Australia, and questioning whether our own industry's positive story around circularity could be better amplified. In New Zealand, Chris Falconer seems determined to challenge the status quo and future-proof his dairy business in a country where society is beginning to expect a lot more from food producers than just food. His 300-cow farm backs onto a large wetland that is a UNESCO-listed site of critical importance, that contains more than one threatened species, as well as having multiple sites of cultural significance for local Maori groups within his farm boundaries. These could have posed real and costly barriers to farming in the long term for Chris, particularly given New Zealand's political climate, but he has chosen to embrace and celebrate the features and adapt his farming system by adopting nutrient management practices and land conservation practices that respect and preserve these unique and special aspects. Chris's dairy herd is milked once a day and calves are kept on cows until weaning, a practice he has received much criticism for, despite seeing comparable production results. In a system based around offering cows as much autonomy as possible, Chris is not so wedded to the idea that he won't adjust to ensure human and animal welfare isn't compromised. If a cow becomes too aggressive or mismothers a calf, he will make the decision to rear it. Chris estimates 5 to 10% of calves require additional support during using these principles. With a lower labour requirement and maintaining competitive production figures and comparable animal health outcomes compared to conventional dairy, it is certainly an attractive and profitable model. Whether cow, citizen or caretaker, most of us want the same things: improved quality of life, sustainable success, and products we can continue to enjoy. These shared values have the potential to align stakeholders on what can be an extremely emotive and polarising topic. If we can unite over our why with clear and universal intent, then maybe we can figure out the how together. Further Australian research is required to establish relevant baseline prevalence data for common dairy welfare metrics, and social science should be utilised to understand barriers to and opportunities for achieving practice change. Addressing farm-level data accessibility and interoperability issues should be an industry priority. My Nuffield has shown me that benchmarking is an incredibly powerful motivational and management tool for farmers, but if we cannot even access our own data reliably to compare year on year when it comes to animal performance, how can we ever hope to advance industry outcomes? Transparency builds trust. Australian dairy farmers should recognise their shortcomings, celebrate their strengths, and amplify stories that resonate. Social sustainability in agriculture requires honest conversations and introspection. It requires having the humility to listen, the curiosity to seek to understand, and the courage to want to change. Here I am in Kansas, standing in a crop of cannabis being grown to explore the benefit of THCs in mitigating transport stress in cattle. And whilst I'm not sure drugging cattle is entirely the answer, the point is industry have recognised that they have a welfare problem and they're exploring potential solutions. Attempts to hide practice changes or provide information to alleviate public concerns are likely to be futile or even detrimental. Likewise, attempting transparency without meaningful intent reduces public acceptability. Failing to plan is planning to fail. Our industry must understand future animal welfare or social licence issues and explore mitigation strategies early. Ultimately, what my Nuffield travels across 4 continents and talking to more dairy farmers and industry professionals than I have dared to count has shown me is that what we have here in Australia are relatively fit and happy cows and comparable or better cow welfare in a global dairy context using the usual metrics. What we do not have is the wide-scale evidence to prove it. So the question I'd like to leave you with today, especially if you're one in 4 of the ice cream lovers in this room who perhaps still remain unconvinced, is how do you think we should show it? Thank you.